Yeah, just for your friends who are not present in the class, let me just go back to the slides one more time. So this is our last session. We want to cover two topics. One is transformational or charismatic leadership. These are the objectives of the class. So we talked about charisma, like as Max Weber has explained. It's a divinely inspired gift. It's like a behavior that we see from the leader, and basically it's different. It's a behavior that is different from a regular or usual behavior that people have, and it's a non-conventional way. So sometimes you make self-sacrifices if you're confident about their proposal or inspire them with the emotional appeals, and see opportunities that others fail to recognize. Then influence process is a personal identification. You can personally identify when somebody has such a behavior. You internalize it. So basically, with such a behavior, when you see from a leader, it's easy to identify yourself. It's easy to internalize their behavior into yourself and get influenced by it. Then facilitating conditions is follower disenchantment or crisis situation. So basically, the situations that it rises up when it's like charismatic leadership is when it's there's a crisis, when there's a problem, then it really helps to have a charismatic leader. So indicators of charisma, as you see, leader traits and behaviors is articulating an appealing vision. So your vision, you got to be a visionary person. You got to see something beyond that everybody's seeing. So you can articulate, and the vision will appeal to you. You'll see the big picture. So that is one of the behaviors of a charismatic leader. Using strong, expressive forms of communication and articulating the vision. And when it comes to the point that you want to communicate what you see or what your vision or your thoughts, you use very strong forms of communication in order to articulate your vision. Then taking personal risks and making self-sacrifices to attain the vision. So sometimes you make sacrifices and you make sure you make ready anything that is required to be ready for everyone to achieve that goal. So it's a sacrificial role, communicating with high expectations. You have high expectations mostly, and you would communicate those expectations from the team. Expressing confidence in followers. You express confidence in followers. You build them up. You tell them that you believe in them and you believe they can do their job, and that helps the followers to do a better job. Modeling behaviors consistent with the vision. So basically, when you have a vision, when you see something, you want to achieve something, you try that your behavior is in the same track with your vision. So it doesn't help if you have a vision and then your behavior is totally different. They should complement each other. There should be supplementary. And the impression that followers get from the leader is also very important. So such a person is able to manage that impression, make the impression look stronger when the need is. And building identification with a group of organizations or empowering followers. So all these are attributes of a charismatic leader, as you'll face. Most of us, we have been dealing with different leaders. A lot of them, or some of them, have been charismatic leaders. Or some of us might be charismatic leaders. So, influence process. So, as I said earlier, we personally identify or social identification or internalization and individual self-efficacy and collective efficacy. So all these attributes are attributes that you will see or realize when you deal with a charismatic leader. So they make an influence on you. Their social behavior make you internalize the influence that they are putting on you. Then facilitating conditions. Leader's vision is congruent with existing follower values and identity. Okay, Mr. Ahmadi, please mute. I really appreciate it if you could mute your microphone, unless you have a question for us. Then task roles defined in ideological terms that appeal to followers and crisis situations. So there are conditions that charismatic leadership will pop up more than other conditions. So some of them are when leader's vision is congruent with its followers' values and identity. So that makes the leader even bigger because his visions and identities and values are the same as a group that he's leading. Then task roles defined in ideological terms that appeal to followers. So what you want to communicate, your ideologies, your thoughts, should be appealing to people, to community. If you're not able to communicate, even though you have a great idea, that is not enough. As a leader, you got to be able to connect with people, and there should be a number of them that will follow. And then crisis situation, of course, in crisis is the best time for a leader to develop and also to perform. So other conceptions of charisma. So the psychodynamic processes, social contagion and charisma, and close and distant charisma, and routinization of charisma. So it looks at the charisma at different perspectives. So the psychodynamics process and social contagion and close and distant charisma and routinization. So as you can see here, it's a comparison of 4 charismatic theories. So influence process, then leader behaviors and facilitating conditions in 4 different perspectives. So as you can see, for attributed charisma, the answer was yes. There was a personal identification, value internalization, but not social identification, social contagion, and enhanced self-efficacy. And then it was majorly yes for self-concept theory, except for social contagion. So it's just a research trying to pinpoint and try to pinpoint and mention exactly what do we mean on each factor and how it works in different scenarios. So it's a very useful chart if you want to make sure you understand each of these attributes. So it sort of breaks them down into a certain attributes that are measurable. Then consequences of charismatic leadership. So we have positive and negative charismatic leadership. Positive and negative basically is determined by examining the consequences for the followers. So what are the consequences that happen to followers after they start following you? And negative charismatic have a personalized power orientation. So when you have negative charismatic leadership, it has a personalized power into it. And positive charismatic have a socialized power orientation. So these are consequences of charismatic leadership and the dark side of charisma. So being an awe with the leader reduces good suggestions by followers. So when you're not in good terms with a leader, it stops you from you coming up with good suggestions, or desire for leader acceptance inhibits criticism by followers. So when you're afraid that the leader will not like your criticism, you don't say that. You self-censor yourself. And adoration by followers creates the illusion of leader infallibility. So when followers are adoring and praising the leader all the time, sometimes they mistake it that the leader is infallible, is not making any mistakes. It's just not true. Everybody makes mistakes. Even the greatest leaders make mistakes, and they learn from their mistakes, and it's all experience and it's all good. So it's a very dangerous thought to think that somebody has the dangerous or is dangerous regarding any possibilities. Then evidence or excessive confidence and optimism blind the leader to real dangers. So sometimes the leader is super confident, he's too much confident about himself that it sort of blinds the leader to the real scenario. So the leader might feel it's really good in certain imaginative scenarios, but when it comes to real case-by-case leadership, you'll see that the leader is not as active. It's because that super confidence draws back a lot of view that a leader should have. And the denial of problems or failures reduces organizational learning. And sometimes leaders are in denial. Instead of trying to fix the problem, they try to deny the problem. They try to change the problem instead of fixing or solving the problem. It happens for charismatic leadership a lot. So it's risky. Grandiose or projects are more likely to fail. So taking complete credit for success. Sometimes the leader want to take all the credit for himself and mention that he is the best, or whatever is done is through him, which is not true. Impulsive, non-traditional behavior of non-traditional behavior creates enemies as well as believers. Sometimes non-traditional behavior makes people not to like you because you are different, and they can't take that type of behavior, and that works against you. Dependence on the leader inhibits development of competing successes. So sometimes they just depend too much on the leader that they cannot develop their own behaviors, and in future probably be the next future leaders. And failure to develop successors create an eventual leadership crisis. So finally a crisis will happen. So the leader behavior, transformational behaviors, idealize influence, individual consideration, inspirational motivation, and intellectual stimulation. As you can see here, it's more when there is a leader, it's a transformational leader, people will try to identify themselves with that. They want to individualize their impact to their life, and they want to be inspired or motivated with them and intellectually inspired. So all these are the positive terms about a transformational leader. And transactional behavior is actually a contingent reward or active management by exception or private massive by exception. So as you can see here, this is a type of behavior that happens when a leader wants to lead and also use that transformational leadership. So there is influence process, as we discussed, transactional leadership, instrumental compliance, and transformational leadership, internalization, and personal identification. So in the process of influencing your followers, you try to comply when it's needed, and your followers will internalize and personally identify themselves with you. So that is the goal. So facilitating conditions. Some aspects of transformational leadership are relevant in most, if not all, situations. Dynamic, unstable environment that increase the need for change. So leaderships or leaders are encouraged to the flexible and innovative and followers' traits and values. So innovation and flexibility are really important for a leader. So followers need to be able to follow the leader. So the leader needs to be really flexible. And then leaders are encouraged to be, innovative also. So innovation is very important. When there is a problem and the normal behavior doesn't fix it, the leader has to think out of the box and try to fix it anyway. And primary types of research, like survey research, laboratory, and field experiment, descriptive research, and intensive case studies. So just to view the transformational versus charismatic leadership, so it's available evidence supports charismatic and transformational leadership theories. So the current evidence supports that they both exist, are practical versions of leadership. Several of their propositions can be found in earlier theories like old wine in a new bottle. So a lot of people believe that transformational leaders are very similar to charismatic leadership. So they have a lot in common when between transformational behavior and So basically, transformational behavior is when you are transforming or changing something, but transaction behavior is on a certain condition or certain context how you behave. So basically, transformation is when you are able to transform, basically, from a situation that you're probably stuck in into a better situation or into a next level of leadership. So basically, transformation behavior comes after transaction behavior. Transaction behavior is just taking what is at hand and handle it, whereas transformation is just with the big picture, take it from where it is into where you want it to go. So with the vision in mind, you are leading the way and you are envisioning what you want at the end. So that is the difference. Okay. Then conceptual weaknesses. So some of the conceptual weaknesses in this type of leaderships are ambiguous constructs, insufficient description of explanatory processes, narrow focus on didactic processes, or omission of some relevant behaviors, or insufficient specification of situations, and bias toward heroic conceptions of leadership. And then overemphasis on universal leader attributes that are not relevant for all situations. So as you can see here, there are some weaknesses as well. So some relevant behaviors that are probably helpful are not addressed when you are only focusing on transformational or charismatic leadership. And overemphasis on universal leader attributes that are not relevant for all situations. So there are some situations that these probably don't apply, but a lot of situations that they apply. And articulate a clear, appealing vision. So these are the guidelines. If you want to be a good transformational leader, make sure you articulate a clear and appealing vision. So that vision that you have in mind, you got to be able to communicate it. Explain how the vision can be attained, and act confident and optimistic. Express confidence in the followers. Use dramatic, symbolic actions to emphasize key values, and lead by example. So these are some of the guidelines probably for any type of leadership. So what you need to do basically is to have a vision, be able to communicate it, and be able to build up your employees or followers, give them confidence, be confident in yourself, and communicate that confidence into your followers, and be symbolic and lead by example. Okay, so this is for Chapter 9. Are there any questions for transformational or charismatic leadership? Are there any questions so far? Any comments? Okay, so if there's none, let's go to the next topic. So leading change in organizations. So that this topic sort of concludes what we want to talk about, or we wanted to discuss in the leadership class, is basically leading change in organizations. Because as you know, every day we are facing change. Every single second, something is different from what it was before. And as a leader, you got to be able to handle those changes. Those changes are happening all the time around you. So all these techniques or the theories that we talk about are different tools for you to be able to lead change in organization. Because change is going to be there. You like it or not, they're going to be changed. If you like it or not, let's say you're in an industry, it's going to change. The policy, everything is going to change. So it's up for us to decide whether we want to go along the change or just say no and try to refuse or deny. So if you deny it, after some time, it's going to hit you because the change is going to be too big, and as a leader, you wouldn't be able to cope. But if you start to going along and playing along, it will be very much good for you if you are able to educate yourself about all those changes and be able to educate others also, be able to make them ready. So finally, this topic is going to finalize the whole thing for us. So the objective is to understand different reasons for resisting change. Sometimes people resist change. We want to know why. Why the psychological process involved in making major changes, understand different ways that leaders can influence by culture of an organization, understanding the charismatic of an effective vision. So these are some of the objectives. Understanding how to develop an appealing vision for organizations. Understand how to implement a major change in an organization. Understanding the characteristics of a learning organization. And understanding how leaders can increase learning and innovation in organizations. Okay. So, reasons for resistant change. Sometimes people resist to change. We want to know why. Sometimes it's lack of trust. Something that is coming up is different, is new, so you're not going to trust it because you're not sure what's coming up next. The change is too big for you. It's too different, so you're not sure. Believe that change is unnecessary. Sometimes, and a lot of times, when we want to resist change, we believe what we have right now is good enough. let's just stick with at what we have. We don't want to do something different. We are doing good. Let's stay the way we are. That's how human beings are. They don't want change. They just want to stay where they are and settle down and get comfortable. But the reality of the case is that change is inevitable. It's going to happen anyway. So it's a necessity. Necessity to survive. So we can't just say no. And then believe that change is not feasible. Sometimes we say, okay, where we are, what we have is so dominant, we are not going to be able to change it at all. And you'll be surprised how many leaders are able to change that. So economic threats, sometimes economy is bad. Like now we are in a tough economy, a lot of problems now. And those days that it is tough, the days are tough. So those will sort of hinder you back from the change. And then relative high cost, mostly having change in your corporation is pretty costly because you got to change everything. So when you used to deal with a certain way of communication and a certain way of doing your things, when the change happens, the whole scenario is going to change. So you have a lot of hidden costs there. Fear of personal failure. Sometimes people take it personal, and when they take the change, they think that if they can't do it, they're going to fail. So loss of status and power, threats to values and ideals, and resentment of interference. So there are stages in the change process. So first you need to unfreeze, change, and refreeze. So this is a kind of concept that people look when you want to make major changes. When things are settled down and everything is going as it should go and everybody is in their right boots doing the right things, it's frozen. It's frozen in the sense that it's not going to change. Everything is fixed and locked in a certain way. So this is suggesting that first you need to unfreeze. First you need to get ready for change. Then make the change and finally put it into the settlement situation again. So this is one theory. The response to repeated traumatic change leaves people less resilient and more vulnerable, and leaves people inoculated and better prepared to deal with change. So these are also some of the stages in actually getting ready for change, So we try to help people get ready for change. Okay, stages in reaction to change. Okay, unfreezing. Okay, a good example would be when, let's say, you are a leader in your company. You're a leader in a telecommunication company, and it is the case as of now that everybody basically is using email to communicate with employees and coworkers, and basically the way you guys are communicating is through emails, and it's like a normal, regular emails. But the change happens and the company implements a new software that gives you the chance to just log into let's say, a software and then do video conferences, voice conferences, and all that. So, it's a change, right? It's just a regular example, just an example I thought of. So to unfreeze means get ready for change. To unfreeze means put a hold on what you're doing, like the regular emailing, unfreeze it and come out of that stable, comfortable situation where whenever you want to communicate, you just send or shoot an email. Instead of that, try to go to that unsecure version or status that you don't know exactly what to do, and try to use this new software and figure it out. So that's sort of unfreezing. You're going from somewhere you knew to somewhere you didn't. So that's an unfreezing example. Or any other change. Let's say you're in a car manufacturing company, and your previous cars that you used to do them or make them easily are not good anymore. So you're making new cars, and new cars take different technology. So you're going to a different direction that you have not been experiencing. Yeah, that's very important to be able to unfreeze your employees, get them ready to come out of that situation, go for the new situation. So that is something the manager or the leader needs to do. So the reaction. So now we're going to the reaction part. So when you as a leader have that behavior, your followers will deny, they'll show reaction. Some of them may say, like, this is not happening, I can't do it, it's beyond me, or anger comes in. So they want to blame someone because they are angry because it's not working out. Or mourning, they'll say, oh, I don't know what to do, and they're nagging and all that. Or adaptation, so accept the needs, change, and go on with one's life. So it's also the best, of course, is to adapt, is to be able to say yes and move on. So prior experience, how a person can react to change depends on the person's general confidence about coping with change successfully. So the way you have managed change in your life, it'll actually create self-confidence for you about that, and in life you get some feeling or idea that you're able to cope with change, and you've been successful, so you're going to be successful. So that confidence helps you, boosts up your motivation, and you'll be able to do it. So how much change they have previously experienced, or if they have changed, they have experienced a lot of change. So basically, there will be people who are able to manage change pretty well. But if they haven't had any changes in their life, they started their life and they're exactly the same, doing it the same way, the same city, everything the same job, same type of work, everything is the same. So they've never had a change in their life. So that's probably going to be really tough for them if they want to do a change in the company. So, resilience and stress and frustration also are important. We got to know that how much stress or frustration they can take. But mostly change will frustrate us because there are a lot of things that at the first time it's not going to work. So even though we try to use it, it will not form. So we shouldn't get frustrated or we shouldn't give up. We should keep on following. Yeah. So then different types of organizational change. So attitude-centered change, sometimes our attitude needs to change. So as a leader, you got to help your employees change their attitudes. You see that there is a problem, you know how to fix it, you just need to change your attitude. Role-centered change. Sometimes the roles needs to be changed. So there are certain people with their certain roles should be at the center, and they should lead the way. Or it's in technology, or in competitive strategy, or human factor, or it's a generic change program. So basically, whatever it is, there is a difference between what you used to do and what you're going to do. And you got to be able to take that, welcome it, and just try to do it accordingly. So systems models for organizational change. So problems have multiple causes. We first of all need to find out what are the causes of those changes. So then action have multiple outcomes. When you take actions, there's not just one single outcome to your action. There are several different outcomes at the very same time that they occur. So you got to be able to figure them out also. You just have delayed effects. Sometimes the effects or the consequences are delayed. So you do something, you make a change, but you don't get the result right away. It will take a few weeks or months to for you to really see what exactly you did. So that is also something you got to consider. Actions that appear to offer a quick relief may make things worse. So sometimes you want to do just a quick answer or something quick. It's not going to be the result because it's just going to do it for short term, but for long term, you need something more lasting, you know. And the best solution may offer no immediate benefit. Sometimes the best solution doesn't give you the best benefit right away. You got to wait. You got to wait and see the result. So that is also important. Then influencing organizational change as a leader, as we discussed, your role is all about influencing people, influencing their roles, and basically nature of organizational change, ways to influence culture, leadership behavior, programs, system structures, and cultural forms. So ways to influence organizational culture, as you can see, leadership behavior, and program systems and structures and cultural forms. So these are different ways, like values and visions. Sometimes you need to merge them together, marry them together, or do a role modeling for others, show some reactions to the crisis. You know, sometimes you need to design a management system or criteria of rewards so that you know who to reward. Those who are able to respond to change properly, you reward them. You sort of try to enforce their response. And then symbols, use symbols and ceremonies or in stories. Culture and growth stages of organization. Before I go further ahead, let me pause here and ask you guys if you have any questions or comments so far. Are we doing okay? Everybody is following? Any questions? Okay, so seems that everybody's fine. Let's move on. Culture and growth stages of organizations. So founders have a strong influence on organizational cultures. So more difficult to change culture in mature organizations. So when we have mature organization, it's difficult to unfreeze, to get ready for change because everybody's settled down. It's really difficult to bring people out of their comfort zone and have them change and go through all these, you know, time-taking and energy-taking change, and ask them to just willingly do that. It's not easy all the time. In a mature organization, the culture influence the leader more than the leader influence the culture. So that is really important. If you have a mature organization where everything is set and it's been around for many years, it's much more difficult for the leader to change that culture rather than the culture will easily influence the leader. So when you see those new leaders who go into like old companies or older companies that are pretty settled with their policies and everything, like there already, it's really difficult for them to make major changes because they would change, because the company will change them faster or earlier before they start to change. So, and you got to develop a vision. So desirable characteristics for a vision is elements of a vision is mission statement, value statement, slogan, strategies, objectives, and project objectives. These are stuff that we discussed in the business strategy class. So when you want to have a vision, you got to have different elements of that so you really understand it and make sure everybody's on the same page in the company. So procedures for developing a vision. So involve key stakeholders, identify strategic objectives with wide appeal, identify relevant elements in the old ideology, link the vision to core competencies, evaluate the credibility and refine the vision, and continually assess and refine the vision. Okay. So these are different procedures required to develop that vision when you are going through the process. then implement the change. So first, create the vision, then implement the change. Make the change happen, because just talking about it is not going to help. You got to finally get to do it. You got to implement it. So responsibility for implementing major changes is support from top management. One of the biggest responsibilities is the support. So if you really want to welcome change, you got to make sure that everybody, all the management team, is supporting it. And the pace and sequencing of changes. So rapid versus gradual introduction of change, or change interdependent subunits simultaneously, and changes in the organization structure to make it consistent with the strategy. Okay, so the vision, we have this question, how long it's going to be maintained. Basically, vision is something long-term, as we discussed in business strategy class. Vision is actually where you want to go, where you see yourself in the future. So basically, we're talking about at least 10 years, 5-10 years when we talk about vision. That's where you want to be. Vision is where you see yourself in the future. So you make sure that your vision is comprehensive enough and is good enough that it will last for a few years. So companies don't change their vision that much. I mean, they change their vision as there are major changes. They gotta follow the changes. But basically, your vision is something that you gotta be sticking to it for quite some time. So I hope I answered your question. Then the pace and sequencing of changes. So sometimes we have rapid versus gradual introduction of change. Sometimes when you want to make a change, you just try to do it as fast as possible because you got to get the results to get going. But sometimes you have gradual introduction. You just want to make people ready, take your time, explain it, tell them why, the background, the foreground, everything about it, make them ready, take the changes, and then move on. So sometimes it's rapid, sometimes slow, according to the type of change and according to the type of reaction that you expect from your employees. Sometimes you know that, okay, if you talk about this change, everybody's going to panic. So you're going to make them ready. It's probably take more time. But sometimes everybody's ready for that change. It's just you just need to get it done. So that's a different story. Change interdependent subunits simultaneously, and then change in the organization structure to make it consistent with the strategy. So as we talked about the strategy in business class, it's a lot about a strategy nowadays. So your engine, your company is producing everything, but they use a strategy. They use all those consistent strategies to produce your product or service. So sometimes you've got to make changes in those strategies. Sometimes some strategies are not doing well or the way you require them to, so you got to make some changes. So here are some guidelines for implementing major change. So sense of urgency, you want to create a sense of urgency in your employees. Everybody thinks that it's urgent and is communicating your vision and benefits of the change to your employees. And then also figuring out what is the support that you're getting, what is the resistance, who's supporting you, who's resisting to you, and create a coalition actually of support for change. Okay, so Mr. News Guy is saying that he couldn't see the slides. Yeah, it was showing, so I will be recording it and it will be put on the LMS and also the Facebook, so you can probably go there or ask your friends about it. So we have been talking about changes, and so then fill key positions with computing change agents, use task forces to guide implementation of changes, empower competent people to help plan and implement change, and make dramatic symbolic changes that affect the work. And prepare people for change by explaining how it will affect them, and help people deal with the stress and difficulties, provide opportunities for early success to build confidence, monitor the progress of change, and make any necessary adjustments, and make people informed about the progress of change, and demonstrate continued optimism and commitment to change. As you can see in all of them, it's like, first of all, it's an introduction to change, let them know what is coming up, and get them ready, and then implement it, get it done, involve them in that, sure. So it's basically the same process. It's just make sure you have resources, make sure you have the right people, make sure you have the ability to do that and implement it, make them ready, get it done, and finally, boom, it's done. Okay, I'll show you the page 8 and 15, Mr. Nurzai, at the end. Sure, absolutely, I'll do that. So, innovation and organizational learning. So, we have internal creation of new knowledge, internal departments, pilot testing new ideas, and external acquisition of new knowledge, like best practices, hiring outsiders, external consulting, and joint ventures. So innovation and learning and change actually could come internally or externally. Sometimes their internal departments are changing or some tests are going on. But sometimes it's external. You get a new hire, you get some external consultant coming in or a joint venture giving you some ideas about what's going on. So the change could come anyway. And innovation and organizational learning, knowledge diffusion and application. So information systems, written or electronic documents, special purpose conferences, seminars and workshops, and learning organizations. And then guidelines for increasing learning and innovation. So encourage appreciation for flexibility and innovation, encourage and facilitate learning by individuals and teams, help people improve their mental model, leverage learning from surprise and failures. So you want to increase learning and innovation by encouraging people. So appreciate their flexibility and innovation. So if your employees are welcoming change, they're taking it, they're doing it correctly, they are even making innovations to welcome change. You got to appreciate that. You got to acknowledge that. You got to encourage and facilitate learning individuals and teams, and help them improve their mental model, like the processes. If you see there's a loop, you got to come in and help them to figure it out and do it in a better way instead of just bystanding and watching what they're doing. So, and leverage learning from surprises and failures. So basically, as a leader, as a transformational leader, you are not a person who is going to be upset with failures or practices that don't lead into success, because you are a person who makes changes and make sure that they happen. So if there's a failure, you got to welcome it, you got to learn from it, and then move on and, you know, do it correctly next time. Then encourage and facilitate sharing of knowledge and ideas, set innovation goals, evolve entrepreneurial behavior. So that, you know, basically sort of concludes our discussion today. Any questions so far? Any comments or questions? Let me just show Mr. Nurzai slides 8 to 15 as he missed them. So these are the slides that we talked. This is slide number 8. So attitude-centered, and then slide number 9, models of organizational change. slide number 10, nature of organizational change, ways to influence culture. Number 11 shows you ways to influence organizational culture. Number 12, culture and growth stages of organization. So number 13, developing a vision. And 14 is procedures for developing a vision. 15 is implementing a change, so making change a reality. Okay, so are there any questions or any comments so far about the final discussion that we have? Yeah, that's very true, Mr. Zagrun. Change requires them to do something differently and probably new, something that they might never have done it before. So it's really challenging, especially when you're settled. Then like time goes by, and if you really like what you're doing or get comfortable doing what you're doing, then if there is a change required, it's not that easy. Okay, 9 up to 14. So this is 9. 10. Okay, so if there is no questions, let's discuss the final and your assignment. So this semester I want to do your assessment a bit differently because the participation and like the way that it was done last semester I was not very satisfied with it. I think better. I want to make sure that everybody is participating, and I want to make sure that the assessment is done efficiently, because what we go through this semester is really helpful and useful if students will study and participate and work hard and be able to implement it. So last semester there were a lot of groups that they didn't submit their individual projects or group projects or a lot of things like that. So this semester I decided to have a final exam. So let me talk about your final exam and how it's going to be and what I'm expecting from you. So your final exam is going to be 1 hour with 1 hour with a half-hour extra time that you will be given. So that exam, I'll give you 4 questions that are obligatory. So those questions, you have to answer all of the questions. So question number 1, 2, 3, and 4, you have to answer those questions, and it's obligatory. But I'll give you a couple optional questions. Those are basically helping you to, if you didn't know that question number 1, 2, 3, or 4, you basically answer those other questions also. So that sort of helps you to, gather points. So the exam is going to be in a written test exam. So I'll give you scenarios, cases, or questions. Then you're going to discuss. Write the answer for me. Like you can write as much as one page or 2 pages, not more than that. But consider and keep in mind that you only have 1 hour, or probably 1 hour and a half for the whole exam. So you want to answer all the questions. So that would be your final exam. So your final exam would be something like a case or a scenario. You read about it. answer the questions elaborately, use examples, be authentic, use whatever you know about the course. It's an open book test, so you can use whatever resources that you have, but make sure that you submit it back in 1 hour and a half. So so that's going to be your final exam, which is really important, and that will be one of the major ways that I will score you. And then, Mr. Nurzai, let me finish explaining the exam, then I can show you the slides. I really want to make sure that you are, you know what exactly is coming up for your final exam and your individual project. Mm. Okay. And then, so any questions so far about the final exam? Anything you want to know, or you want me to explain more about it? Oh yes, the date of the final exam is 2 weeks from now. So today, 2 weeks from now, you will have your final exam. So please keep that in your calendar. 2 weeks from now is your final exam. You will be, I believe, in the same time frame that we have our classes. So basically, that is going to be your final exam, and admin is going to administer the final exam. So, okay, so since you're fine about final exam, I'll tell you about the project. Yes, the exam is going to be about all these concepts that we explained, and it's going to be you from the slides and the book. So it's basically it's going to basically ask about your understanding of all these concepts. It's not necessarily just like a question of asking something that you just fill it up, or blank sentence or something. It's basically more geared towards your understanding of the concepts. It is individual. It is individual. Everybody has to answer separately. Okay, the book, as we have discussed, you can, the date and time of the exam is going to be 2 weeks from now, like the same time that we have our classes. So you will just get the question from the admin. You have 1 hour and a half to submit it back, and you have 4 questions and probably a couple questions optional on top of the 4 questions. And yes, week 12. If you want, we can have a question and answer session like next week if you want. It all depends to you, or if you rather just spend time. Yes, but that's an exam. So basically, it's like a regular exam. It's not 2 hours. It's an hour and a half, Mr. Akmal, and so it's actually a real final exam. So you gotta be fast in typing and writing the answers. So then The other thing I want to let you know about is your individual project. So the individual project, for the 4 questions, you'll be given an hour and a half for 4 questions plus those 2 optional questions. So you can just divide your time or manage your time and then like use your time wisely, because yeah, probably half hour, 1 hour and a half for the whole exam, but probably you're going to spend about 15 minutes max for every question typing in. So the questions are more geared towards your understanding. You use the concepts we discussed in the class, but you got to write down, use examples. You know, examples are really important, and explain it in a way that you communicate your understanding and the fact that you are able to understand what you discussed in the class. So that is really important that you discuss that. And I see from your answer that you know the concepts. So the questions, you will get it exactly on the same day, on the same time, and from the time you get the question, you have 1 hour and a half to give it back. So that's what you're going to do, and the admin is going to administer that. Sure. And so it's 2 weeks from now, exactly the same time you have the class. Then, are there any other questions? Okay. So now about your individual project. Your individual project, I will email you, everyone, and have admin email you as well a case. It's going to be for every single person. I mean, it's one case for all of you, but it's done individually. So you do that, and it's due a week after your final exam. So 2 weeks from now is your final, and 3 weeks from now is going to be your submission. So means week 13 is your project submission. And this time, last semester, I accepted all the late submissions. This semester, I'm not accepting any late submissions. So 3 weeks from now, I want every single project submitted by midnight. So before 12 midnight on the week 13, I want all the projects to be submitted. You could write as much as 10 pages the maximum that you can write for the case is 10 pages. Exactly, that is true. One case for all, but I want your different viewpoints or analysis of the case. So that will be your individual project. So this way you will have your final and your individual project, and that's how you'll be assessed for this semester. The topic is about leadership. I will give you a case, so I'll email you, email everyone, and also have admin to email you. So how many? Yeah, it's about 10 pages. 10 Word pages is the maximum that you can go. Yeah, absolutely. The case, you'll get it today. You'll get your case today in email,
But your final exam, you would know only the time that the exam is going to be administered. So your exam, you won't have the questions, and you just come in and log in, or I mean the way that admin wants to administer it. Yeah, the case, as I mentioned, you get it today, right today, but the final, you'll get it the same day, and you only have an hour and a half to get it back to me. So it is a final exam, it's open book, but you only have an hour and a half. You don't get the questions in advance, or you can submit it later after 1 hour and a half. It's like as if you're in an exam session and the time is up. So you should give it back in an hour and a half. Very good. So 2 weeks from now is the final, and the project is due 3 weeks from now. The project will be given to you today. I'll email everyone the project, and I want it back 1 week after your final, which means on week 13. So week 12 is your final. Week 13, I need the individual project back. Okay, any other question? Any comments or questions? Okay, which slide do you want to see, Mr. Nolizai? Okay, this is slide number 9. Number 10. Number 11. And number 12. Okay. So are there any comments or questions about your final exam, your slide, your project, or anything? Any questions you have? Okay, no questions. Everybody's clear. Everybody knows exactly what's coming up. Yeah, just a matter of time management, and I'm sure that you'll be fine. Okay. So if there is no question and everything is clear, we can conclude the session here. this will be the end of the chapters of your leadership class. If you have any questions or concerns, you can always email me, and I can answer your questions. Then I'll have the admin to email you the cases, and your exam is going to be in 2 weeks' time. Okay? So we are all good? Yes, yes. You'll get the case today. I'll have them and make sure that they send you the case. And yeah, the case is your individual work. So, and the final exam would be just done in 2 weeks' time. Okay. Very good. So now we can end the session. And so what about individual project? What is your question about individual project? Mr. Zamai, what is your question about individual project? What about it? Okay. So seems that there are no questions. Okay. So sure, absolutely. So that will be the end of the session. Yes, you could start your individual project today and start preparing for your final exam, which is coming up in 2 weeks' time. Okay, very good. So thank you very much, everyone. And I'll see you in the next class in like 15, 20 minutes. If you want to have a question and answer class, we can have one. If you like, we can come in and have a Q&A, and if you have any questions or anything that you want to go through from the previous chapters, we can have a class so that we can go through your questions. You can absolutely do that. If you want to do it, mm. This problem, we have been discussing it with the admin for the next semesters to see what exactly we can do to fix this problem. But as of now, you can refer to the slides and like online, and yeah, it's actually an open book exam. But you have to manage your time. You only have a hour and a half, so it's important that you be able to manage your time and yeah. Mm, so as far as you have listened to the classes, if you attended the classes, or if not, after the class you have been viewing the slides and the classes, it should be all right. Yes, mostly every single institution, every university or college you go to, they'll give you the syllabus, they give you the book, and it's the responsibility of the student to get the book. So basically, the institution will not provide the book. So, but despite the fact and knowing that, but the the university is going to find out how we can help you. So basically, any university you go, they won't give you the book. It's just you, the student, will have to go and buy it themselves, or get it from libraries or whatever. But yeah, I've given you the reference books and like showing you the slides and everything. So, uh, but we would be more than happy to find out how we can help uh, the students to study better. So, oh, if you don't attend the exam, it's going to be a failure. So you have to redo the course. Uh, yes, I'm sure that the the university is gonna find out the best way to help you with the internet problem and the best solution. Yeah, the exam is not going to be in the class, so the admin is going to administer it. So just keep that in mind. It's going to be 2 weeks from now, and it's going to be an hour and a half with 4 questions, and then like couple questions, like bonus questions. But the details of the way admin is going to administer, they're going to let you know. So just know the exact date and the number of the questions, the details of the exam, and how it's going to be administered. and you'll be fine. Okay, so are there any other questions or comments? Very well. So, seems that everybody's clear about the questions and everything. So, we'll end the class here, and I'll see you in the next class with a short break. Okay, thank you.